Greetings. Hi, Courtney.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I am good. It's good to be here with you. I'm excited for today.
I am as well.
Yeah, this will be great. So I have your introduction. We'll probably get started a few minutes after 1.
Okay.
Lisette, it's good to see you. Thank you for being on here and doing your moderation stuff and for doing the flyers for us. Appreciate that.
Of course.
And yeah, I'll just kind of jump off and I'll come back on a little after 1 and we'll introduce you, Courtney, and get started unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Sid. I guess, may I please practice sharing my screen so that I'm able to show my slides? Okay, great.
Yes, let me double check that you have, there we go. You should be good to go.
Okay, great. Okay.
I can see it on my end, so
Oh, good.
yeah.
To be sure I know how to share a portion of the screen. Lisette, does that look proper? Are you just able to see the slide?
Yes, I can see this slide, just the slide.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Lisette, when she said that, I tried pulling it up and I didn't see it on my end. Could you try it one more time, Courtney, and just make sure that I'm getting it here?
Absolutely.
All right, there we go. Yep.
Okay.
You were too quick in taking it. So got it. We're good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Emily.
Hi there, Sid. How are you?
I am doing well today. It's a beautiful, not too hot day here, so all is well.
Yes, very good. I'm glad. I am, as you can see, in a closet, but up in McCall, and it's been gorgeous up here right now. Good to see you, Courtney and Lisette, too, and everybody that's
Emily.
joining us.
Coming to you live from your vacation, it sounds like then if you're in the closet.
Yeah, a little bit like that. The kitten might jump up here in a minute and join us too, but
That's
yeah.
awesome. So I told Courtney that we'll get started maybe just a couple of minutes after 1, give everyone a chance to get their notice that it's time, and then I'll do the introduction and go from there.
That sounds good. And did you want to, or maybe Lisette, or I'm happy to do it, say a little bit about the Tribal Advisory Board and the series, and that we'll record it?
Yeah, I would love you to, Emily. If you'll do that, then I'll introduce her.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start it off here in a minute or two with that, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect.
And we're already recording, so we're all set.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lisette. Sid, do you know if Jessica's going to be joining us too?
She is not. She
Okay.
is on training or something somewhere. She told me where she was, but I forgot. So she will not be here today because she has sketchy connection.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks. Great. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you. Those of you that are joining us, this is our 4th Lunch and Learn between the Fort Hall Shoshone-Bannock tribes and Boise State University. And this Lunch and Learn series is being put together by the Tribal Advisory Board, which I'm so honored to be able to serve on with Sid Hare and 6 other members of both Boise State and the Fort Hall communities. We're really grateful for the support of Lisette Villegas from the School of the Environment at Boise State, who has put the flyers together and the Zoom links and is in charge of recording these talks so that people that aren't able to join us in person can listen to them in the future. And those will be available on the School of the Environment website at a future time, or on by request to either Sid or I if you would like to see them. But as many of you may already know, Boise State and Fort Hall entered into a memorandum of understanding in November of 2019. Is that right? No, 2021. Sorry. All the years blend together. And through this memorandum of understanding, we are working to find ways of making Boise State's programs more available to the Fort Hall communities, and also provide opportunities for Boise State students, faculty, staff, and researchers to engage with the tribes in meaningful and reciprocal ways. I'm a professor at Boise State and associate director of the School of the Environment, and work closely with the Andrus Center. And so I've worked closely with Sid Hare and other members on the Shoshone-Bannock side to put together this series to inform people about the exciting programs that are happening at Boise State, and share our knowledge in this way. So I'll go ahead and introduce Sid. The idea is these Lunch and Learns will be sort of 45 minutes of information, and then a question and answer session at the end. And again, they'll be recorded so you can share them with people who weren't able to join us. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sid. Thanks so much again for being here.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate that. So I work under the executive office for the Shoshone-Bannock tribes. I've been here for about 6 years. And I administer the grant for the Administration for Native Americans. And then I also serve on the Tribal Advisory Board. And this will be our 3rd year serving on this board. And it's been exciting to see these things kind of come together. I'm really excited about today's topic because I didn't even consider this any type of issue in the workforce until 2 years ago. I was sitting in a John Maxwell Live to Lead conference, and the guy did a whole presentation on multi-generational workforce. And during that time, I realized that here at the tribes, we have 5 generations of workers in our workforce. We have our youth program that's kicking off right now. And then we have elders that are working for us, and then everything in between. So this impacts every aspect of what we do here. So I'm excited about that. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Cortney. I will read her bio because I'm not good at memorizing these things. So Cortney Campbell is a lecturer in the Department of Management at Boise State. Prior to her career in academia, she was an entrepreneur who employed a large and incredibly diverse workforce nationwide. In peak years, she employed as many as 500 independent contractors for shorter work periods. Faced with incredibly short training windows, she soon realized that navigating the intergenerational workforce was a top priority for building high-performance teams. She is currently a PhD student in educational leadership. In addition to her experience navigating generational differences in the field, she has the pleasure of teaching a wide variety of demographics, groups, and skill sets. In addition to Boise State students, she works with students from the College of Southern Idaho and Idaho's Workforce Development Program. She has worked with companies large and small, including Cliff Bar, Chobani, Commercial Tire, Plant Therapy, and government agencies such as Headgate, Idaho's Water Leadership Academy. So thank you so much, Cortney, for joining us for a lunch and learn. Like I said, we're really excited about this topic. And for our tribal employees, we will have this available probably within a week on the internal website. So if you want to share it with your coworkers, that will be available. So Cortney, it's all yours. Thank you.
Sid, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today. And I hope that I don't sound too stuffy. I came down with my first round of COVID ever a couple days ago. So I'm really enjoying that. But I'm so thrilled and honored to be here. Can everybody see my screen? It should just be the slides. Fabulous. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the roadmap of what I had prepared for today. I wanted to just touch on why it is that this topic is so important for me. Tell you a little bit and give you a little plug for the program that I work in now. We'll talk about understanding the generations, and we'll go through each generation and what's important to them. We'll touch on some of the challenges in intergenerational workforce. And then we'll look at some strategies for navigating intergenerational workforce. And then at the end, I'm hoping we can have an open discussion and share with one another things that we are doing in our organizations that are working. So as Sid mentioned, previous to academia, I spent 25 years in product marketing and traveling sales. So I'd go to events like the Philadelphia Flower Show and set up 12 or 14 booths and work for a couple of weeks. And I would literally hire people off of Craigslist, train them up in 2 days, and force them into teams. So there wasn't a lot of time for them to get to know one another. And I found that I was employing multiple generations who all had different ways of learning and processing. I tried for a while to separate them, so I would put different generations together. But in forming those teams that were very similar, I noticed that I wasn't getting as much customer interaction. So I really strived for putting teams together who had a wide variety of experiences, who came from different generations. And so I did that in the nation's major cities with very narrow training windows. I'd employ high school students who are off for the summer and people over the age of 76 years of age, senior citizens who were just wanting to pick up some extra work. And again, all types of backgrounds and experiences. When I went back to school and decided that I wanted to teach, my first teaching experience was in community college. And for anybody who's taught in community college or taken community college classes, the best thing and the worst thing about community college is the community. You have everybody from different age groups, different experiences, and while it brings incredible diversity to the class, navigating that can really be a challenge. So different worldviews, different cultural lenses, different life and work experiences. So I thought I really would like to make my focus in education, trying to figure out how we can bring people who have a different set of experiences, different ways that they view the world together as one. So then I was blessed and honored a couple of years ago to join the College of Business and Economics at Boise State University. And the program that I specifically teach in is the Resort and Hospitality Management Program. So this is a new program to Boise State. It just started in the last couple of years. because the third largest industry in Idaho is hospitality and management, and there's huge growth over the last years, and it's only projected to continue. So our work is to develop professional and career-driven workforce, not just people who are coming to hospitality who do it as a summer job. We're hoping to have a direct impact, and I'm starting to see that already, on Idaho's resort and tourism industry and strengthening industry partnerships with the university. So there's two ways students can be involved in our program, and it's completely online. We offer both a Bachelor of Business Administration with an emphasis in resort and hospitality management, and also a new Bachelor of Applied Science online program. Students can also just complete a 7-class certificate program. And one of the big focuses in our program is we know that everyone is short-staffed. We know that everyone is missing workers in the workplace. And it's how can we leverage the strengths of the communities that we currently have in our organizations. So some of the student benefits that I work on with my team are practical industry experience. So working with Idaho tourism industry to source bespoke and unique internships. It's personalized. We provide student support. And then it's flexible because, again, the courses are fully online. So classes start year-round, industry connections, project-based internships. If you know someone in hospitality who's interested in this but doesn't want to leave their current employer, we can also do an internship designed within their current employer to just give them additional skills. And we are part of the Idaho Launch Grant for up to $5,000. So why does this matter? Because I've learned that the quickest way to move forward any group, project, workforce, or learning is to try to bridge the intergenerational gap as quickly as possible and to utilize the strengths of each specific generation. So as we look to kind of understand those generations, we have our baby boomers, and everybody has a little bit different take on the years that they are, but it's usually around 1946 to 1954. Then we have Generation X, which is 1965 to 1980. Our millennials are Gen Y, 1981 to 1996. Gen Z, 1997 to 2012. And then Generation Alpha, who we won't really touch on because they're really not quite yet in the workforce. So let's look at each one a bit in particular. So when we think about our baby boomers, some key characteristics that define them in terms of work are they have a very strong work ethic. They're loyal to their employers, and they typically have experience in traditional corporate structures. In terms of what they value at work, it's job security, hard work, and a sense of duty. And they often place a high importance on personal and professional accomplishments. In terms of work preferences, we often see that they enjoy face-to-face communication. They enjoy structured environments and clear hierarchies within the workplace. The historical and cultural events that have shaped this generation, well, it's post-World War II economic boom, the civil rights movement, and the rise of television and mass media. When we look at their work attitudes and behaviors, baby boomers often display a high level of commitment to their jobs, a preference for stability and long-term employment, and a tendency to respect authority and organizational rules. Now, moving on to Generation X, their key characteristics are independence, they enjoy adaptability, they have an entrepreneurial spirit. They having grown up in a time of significant social and economic changes, they say that is why their entrepreneurial spirit is peaked. They make great entrepreneurs in organizations as well. They value work-life balance, flexibility, and the opportunity for personal growth, often prioritizing family and personal well-being for their professional achievements. In terms of their work preferences, they like autonomy. They like opportunities for professional development and a more informal and flexible work environment. Now, of course, this isn't everyone, but just generalizations. The historical and cultural events that shaped them, they were shaped by things such as the end of the Cold War, the rise of personal computing and the internet, and significant economic recessions during their formative years. In terms of work attitudes and behaviors, they tend to be pragmatic and results-oriented. They're often skeptical of authority and large institutions, and they value efficiency and very direct communication in the workplace. Coming right after them, we of course have our millennials, or Gen Y. Their key characteristics are that they are tech savvy, pretty much highly educated and value driven, having grown up in the digital age with an immense amount of information available to them. And in that digital age, the widespread access to information and technology really affects their values at work. They value diversity and inclusion. They have a sense of social responsibility. They look for meaningful work, often seeking out opportunities that align with their personal values and passions, maybe so over monetary considerations. They prefer collaborative work environments and flexibility in terms of work hours and the locations where they get to work. And opportunities for continuous learning and development are also important to this group. The historical and cultural events that shaped them, they were shaped by events such as the rise of the internet and social media, the 9/11 attacks, and the Great Recession, which influenced their perspectives on security and stability. When we look at their work attitudes and behaviors, they tend to be team-oriented and open to change. They value feedback and recognition. They often seek a very healthy work-life balance. That's incredibly important to them, prioritizing their personal fulfillment alongside their professional success. And then Generation Z, the last generation we'll look at, they have what we call digital nativity. They grew up with literally a device in their hand. As such, they have a very global perspective and an entrepreneurial mindset, having grown up with smartphones, social media, and instant access to any information they'd like. In the workplace, they value authenticity, transparency, and social justice. And they often advocate for causes they believe in, and they seek to make a positive impact on the world. In terms of their work preferences, they want flexible work arrangements. They want a strong emphasis on work-life balance and opportunities for innovation and creativity within their roles. This generation often likes to know and see the direct impacts that the organizations that they work for have on the community and the world. Historical and cultural events that shape this group include events such as the proliferation of social media, climate change awareness, the COVID-19 pandemic, and movements like Me Too and Black Lives Matter. Their work attitudes and behaviors tend to be highly adaptable, very tech savvy. They often seek quick advancement and continuous learning opportunities, and they value diversity and inclusion in the workplace. They expect there is an absolute expectation from their employers to be socially responsible and ethical. So what challenges come about from this as a result? So communication styles, because of the wide variety of the different generations, can often be a challenge. Whereas a Generation Z employee might want a quick Zoom or even a text, they're working with a baby boomer, they will not value that as much as something face-to-face. Technological adaptation, of course, is a major challenge. When we look at Gen Y and Gen Z, it's very easy for them to pick up new technologies. Work expectation and values. It seems that each generation, while there are similarities between what they bring to the workplace, they're all looking for something just a little bit different. And then management and leadership changes. How do they view changes in the organization? Is it with great zeal, or do they prefer the same work every day? So now what can we do? Now we're going to look at 5 ways that we can navigate, hopefully leverage our intergenerational workforces. So the first tip that we're learning is to foster open communication. Encourage an environment where open and respectful communication is promoted. Implement regular feedback mechanisms and intergenerational dialogue. I think it's incredibly helpful if you have a workforce that is intergenerational to have a discussion about that and what each unique generation brings to that team. And to use communication tools and platforms that cater to diverse preferences. So if you are a group that often has in-person meetings, you could shift some of those to online platforms. You could vary it so that you're meeting different preferences for the different people that you work to collaborate. The second item that we can look at is leveraging strengths of each generation. We can identify and utilize the unique strengths and experiences that each generation brings. If we rely on those generations to have different talks with our workforce, for example, if new technology is rolling out, it might be a great idea to pair some of your Gen Y and Gen Z with your baby boomers or your Gen X to look at those technologies and walk through them together. Whereas if you have something more tactile, you might find that older generations have more diversity and something to share in those conversations. So promoting those cross-generational mentoring and collaboration can be huge because it will give your workforce a sense that everyone has something to learn and everyone has something to teach. And then creating spaces and opportunities for knowledge sharing and skill transfer. The third item that we can look at is providing training and development. And we see with workforces that this is a constant need, requirement, and something that is keeping our workforce engaged, and often with companies longer, is offering training programs that are tailored to different generational needs and preferences, and encouraging continuous learning and skill development. Allowing our employees to develop personalized development plans. If you are mentoring people in your group or organization, try to think back about the last time that you sat down with them and help them to develop a career map and ask them, what skills would you like to build on? And what can I do to help you achieve that? What personal interests do you have? And what steps are you taking to learn more about that? And are there resources that I could provide to you? Fourth is creating an inclusive culture. So developing policies and practices that really support diversity and inclusion. So really looking at the different types of events that you have planned and what generations do they most appeal to? Are there certain generations in your organization that you're not currently having events for? And if so, what events might be of interest to them? It might be great to sit down with these folks and brainstorm a list of opportunities of things that they would like to do. And then very important is just celebrating generational diversity and creating opportunities for intergenerational interaction. Promoting team building activities to encourage collaboration and understanding. Looking back at moments in history and asking people, what do you remember about that? What can you share with us about that experience? So I apologize, that went much quicker than I thought, but now I was hoping that we could have some discussion about what we're doing in our organizations and what is working. Who would like to start us off? Oh, I see you have information in the chat. Oh, the description was spot on. Gen X, 100%. Oh, that makes me happy. I'm a Gen Xer too. Okay. So I would greatly appreciate anybody that would just be willing to jump in and talk with us about your intergenerational organization, what your experience is with that, and what you find that's working.
Everyone is so shy. Otter, Otter, if you had anything to comment, because where you work with some of the vocational rehab, you get to kind of work with all of those people. I'm wondering if you've seen anything in your role when you were with vocational rehab, Otter.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, I'm just wondering, like in your role when you were with vocational rehab, like with the whole multi-generational thing, if you noticed any of those differences, communication styles, and how each of them had their own kind of personas.
Absolutely. We go from a big generational change to individuals who grew up with the internet versus the individuals who did not grow up with the internet. Work performance are totally different. But there was also strengths in both work performances. Some were more technical, hand-to-eye movement with computers. Others were more physical in the labor market, more understanding of the ruler versus submitting emails and documentation. So each one has its own differences. But when it comes to the employment portion and dealing with those, you got to focus on the strengths, not the barriers, but their strengths and qualities, and also with the educated investment individuals searching those jobs, and informed choice is very big. That we all use informed choice in multiple departments, dealing with human services, especially within education. The people that put these people in classes got to be in the best interest of those individuals doing the classes, because not only are they paying an arm and a leg to attend these classes, but to have like a student rep guide them in the right path. So, I mean, nobody likes to pay for a class that they don't use in employment.
That is fantastic feedback. Thank you so much. Would you mind sharing with me, since you were kind enough to share that, what do you do when intergenerational conflict presents itself in your organization? What are some go-to strategies you could share with us, please?
Number one, first thing is listening and understanding. Even if you don't see their side of the bridge on a topic or a discussion or an issue, let them know that you will do your best to find the insight on the other side of the bridge of the argument or situation. So when it's kind of like being a mediator. So when you got to mediate in between those separate entities of an old way of doing things versus it's easier to do it this way and more efficient, more modern. Adaptation to both understandings has to be present. I mean, without them understanding and without them having the feeling that this guy's actually listening to me. I can actually get my point across, not just somebody one ear out the other ear. I'm taking notes. Yeah. Nobody's engaged when the individual's doing this. It's when you're listening without writing notes, and you're actually making that eye contact, that body motion, that I'm engaged in listening to you. I'm not just saying here, lay back. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me more. So it's all about how you approach the situation of subject matter. And if it's something that you don't know or you're less informed, just let the individuals know, I will research this. I don't know what you're talking about, but let me get it, and then we can readdress this issue.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you. That's going to be hard to follow. Who has something that they could add to that in terms of how they navigate their intergenerational workforce, please? Oh, Chrissy.
Something that I ran across really recently was hiring and the way resumes look between generations. So we had a really young resume group, and their job experience was about 3 years at every job. And the older folks on the call, like on the hiring committee, the Gen X, the older Gen X specifically, felt like that was a negative. They were like, it just feels like people aren't staying with their companies. Like this, is this really normal? And I told them, I was like, as somebody I'm an older millennial. Like, I know for our generation, we were told that you should stay at a job for about 3 years and then look for something new, because that's how you work your way up and, get paid more. That if you stay in the same job, you're probably not going to get, that upward mobility that you're looking for. So to move on. And so like a 3 year, whenever I see 3 years, that's what I see is somebody who's like trying to build their resume and, learn more and grow more. Whereas some of the folks on the call, what they saw was disloyalty and just like kind of flakiness. And so I thought that was like a really interesting thing that I've run into recently, is just the, understanding what that resume can look like to different generations. Whereas, I've also had resumes where people worked their, entire career at one thing, and now they're looking for something different as like a quote unquote retirement job. So yeah, that's my contribution.
That is fascinating. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing it. How important it was, right? That you had a heterogeneous team reviewing those resumes, or some of those incredibly quality applicants might have slipped through just because of that intergenerational misunderstanding. So thank you for sharing that. Who's willing to go next, please?
I can go. Can you guys hear
Thank
me
you.
okay?
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, great.
Okay. I'm the education program manager for the Shoshone Tribe. Thank you for presenting. I appreciate all of the knowledge that was shared in today's workshop. So right now we're undergoing our summer opportunities program. So we employ youth ages 14 to 24 within the workforce through our labor workforce here at the tribes. And we are doing our training to orientate our youth on how to be a good worker, a good employee, stay employed within the workforce, and giving them those soft skills training. We're working with our community colleges to get them trained and get the work ethic going. There's a lot of scenarios, situational stuff that they play out. They're going to be utilizing the micro curriculum this year. So they're going to learn a lot of different things, but I've noticed that the attention spans in youth get like shorter and shorter every year. Seems like, and I noticed the sensitivity in, asking them to do something. It's the approach. You have to be different with them. Versus, if you're talking to, somebody of your same age. I just noticed that there's those differences. But we're trying as a tribe, so I'm definitely going to try to share this presentation with them during their training.
Jessica, thank you so much. That is wonderful feedback. That reminds me, I just read a study the other day about how even our brains process information different. So when you look at Gen X and baby boomers, we read books and we'd start at the first page and read all the way down into the next page. Those generations who were raised with a digital screen that had all of the information there at once, their brains were taught to seek out the most important information on the screen. So even the way that they process or read is very different. So fascinating. Thank you. Who else would like to share, please?
I'll say something real quick too.
Thanks,
I
Sid.
just thought it was interesting. About a month or so ago, we were talking about making some training videos, and someone made the points like you need to make it like be 30 seconds long, and we're my generation's like you make the training videos and everything is in there, and it's like no, you're working with a TikTok generation. You got them for 30 seconds, and commercials. We don't even watch commercials anymore. That used to be 2 minutes long, and so learning that. And to not come in with biases, right? Well, it's like, well, they're going to watch this 1 hour long video, but it's like trying to listen to them and really watching our biases when it comes to that. And so don't plan on making 2 hour long videos because your younger generations aren't going to watch them.
That's a great point, Sid. Thank you. Who else has something to share? Oh, Joe, I see you down here. Oh, Joe, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, hopefully everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, so after coming out of the pandemic, the city, we were mostly online and it was all remote. It was that really odd time where everybody was just kind of tuning in. And so as soon as we started reopening for our citizens, we needed folks to be in the office. But we quickly found out that we have a lot of people who have long tenures at the city. And so the need to bring back in-person meetings came about. And so after working back and forth, we finally settled on Wednesdays. Everybody, if you're in the office, come to the in-person meeting. But then we realized if you're sick, attend the meeting virtually. So it's this balance, and we're still working on it because we acknowledge that the attention of in-person is vastly different than attending virtually.
Excellent. Excellent. Great feedback, Joe. Thank you. Does anybody else have something they'd like to share? Well, Sid, Emily, I apologize. I think I talked a bit faster than I had intended.
Courtney, I have something to say.
Oh, thank you, Ramona, please.
I'm Ramona Medicine Horse, and I'm the project director for the Vocational Rehabilitation Program. And we have 5 staff at the time working with us, and Otter was one of them. And we do kind of have the spread out of all generations in our program. And, you know, and I'm face-to-face meet kind of person, and Zooms are kind of hard for me because I don't feel like I can interrupt or interject any of my ideas. But what we do as far as our intergenerational and communication skills is we all sit at the table together and talk and share our ideas, put all that notion into one workforce so that we all are on the same page as far as technology goes, as how we deliver our services, and everything's all together. And I'm the one that's always saying, Otter, I need help me with this, you know, so it's my computer's not working, my printer's not working, or something's wrong, or but so yeah, I mean it's come a long way, and but I think our department and the employees we have really are good, and we work together and we complement one another, and I think that's what's really important is the complying and working together as a one unit, and that makes a whole big difference.
Ramona, that is wonderful. Let me ask you, at these meetings, is there food? Are there snacks? There's
In the
I
meetings,
just at their
it
meetings,
depends.
yes.
It depends on who has the money for the day that brings in snacks.
Oh, very good. I just noticed that whatever generation, everybody likes to seem to get together and have a meeting if there are snacks. So that seems to run through
Yeah,
all
it
generations.
depends on how generous someone's feeling.
Very good. Very good. Who else is willing to share? I see some in the chat. Molly, would you mind telling us more about what you put in the chat?
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, so I'm Gen Z, and of course, like all my peers are too. And as we've all kind of graduated and gone into the workforce in the past few years, like just noticing how different work can feel when you have, like, I've worked in places where I've had kind of a mix of people who are about my age and teams where there are people who are mostly my generation. I've known people who went and worked for like banks where they were like the only person under the age of 30, and just kind of seeing those differences and how people feel like they can connect with their peers and how communication happens is totally different. I was typing up a comment to respond to Sid, even just like email and chat communications. Like I know people where where their culture at work is very young, and they'll use like Slack and email and stuff, kind of like Discord, like people using like abbreviations and no punctuation and like responding really quickly. Like just I feel like there's a totally different way that we communicate online we've grown up with, and that often doesn't translate to work communication because it's so casual. So just stuff like that, I think, is very different.
Absolutely. Someday archaeologists might look back and think that we spoke different languages in between our generations. I can see that. Yes. Yes. And texting with the work team becoming the new normal. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jocelyn, that's a great point. Are there different things that you're doing in your organization to bridge the gap that you'd be willing to share?
No.
No.
I don't know how much it comes. Well, I think people come to me in our office. We're very small. I'm elder Gen X. I was born in 78. But I also do like a lot of current stuff. It's just everything seems like so automated now. I'm not a mechanic, but it feels like a comparison to cars now. Like everything is digital. Like you get a code and it tells you what's wrong. Whereas a car in the past, it's much more mechanical and someone has to actually go searching. I feel like that kind of applies to technology. And so when you mention like printers, I'm like, okay, but who's actually like printing? I mean, I know people still print, but I had a student once who this was several years ago. We had a typewriter and we had these ancient cards that had to be typed. And then I had to ask him to do something else. And I was like, oh, we'll go use the typewriter. Oh, it was he would use it for mailing labels. And he said, you mean the label maker? But yeah, so if you just kind of compare the way cars are now, they're all still cars, but like tech, I don't know if that's a good way to say it, like a mechanical digital versus, oh, everything just updates automatically and all you have to do is install it and there you are, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And it's funny too, as we look at the different generations, their view on cell phone in the workplace. And it took me a long time to realize that one of the reasons why Gen Z is on their phone so much is that's how they were told to find things. You didn't ask an elder about how to do something, you Googled it. So yes, definitely. Well, Sid, Emily, I'm sorry I ran short here, but that's about all I have prepared.
Courtney, there is a question in the box.
Oh, yes.
Where did Kelly ask, what happens when you are in between two age brackets?
Well, you probably are very highly influenced by both. It just would depend on which you more lean towards in terms of the things that influenced you and the things that made a difference with you. You know, one of the things that they say was very big with my generation was the Enron scandals and some of the things that went on there, whereas the baby boomers could be seen a lot more as company people. You stay with the same company, you retire after 30 years, you get a gold watch. You know, my generation was heavily affected by that of maybe we ought not put all our eggs into one basket because of some of the things we saw in the news. So maybe just reflect on your styles of work preference and things that have happened in your life that made the biggest impact, and that would probably lean you one side or other.
Courtney, you brought up a good point about like incentives, right? Because I think it's important to know, like if you're on the incentive or reward kind of program, and one of my employees like messaged me and said, you know, we're after the gold watch, and you brought that up. And you know, with our older generation, maybe they don't want a gift card or something. Maybe they want a day off, but maybe our younger generation, they want the gift card to Starbucks. So I think it's important to realize, and I really appreciate what Ramona said, where she sits down with her team and they have these critical conversations. And it's important to know that all 5 generations communicate differently because they were impacted differently by different events that happened, you know, and talk to them about those events. Well, what happened when the Columbia shuttle, where were you when 9/11 happened? So have those things, those conversations. And Kelly put in the chat box, older generation prefers mature. So like that maturity. And I think that's what happens a lot is when you're either caught in the middle or you're the older generation and you tend to judge the younger generation. Well, they just don't care. They don't have a work ethic. They don't show up on time. And so we get into that habit of judging them instead of, like Otter said, embracing what they bring to the table and learning to work together. The other thing I noticed was like the 2-week notice thing. My generation was like, you have to give a 2-week notice. And we took in a couple of kids one time. And he was like, I'm tired of my job. So like, I'm going to quit. And I says, well, you got to turn in your 2-week notice. And he's like, what? Why? Like it was completely foreign. And it's just like, well, because that's just what you do. And so it's interesting that even kind of like our work, I won't even say ethics because it's our own probably ethics, but those are changing as well. And it's really hard, especially being in the older generation, to not judge the younger generation, and then the younger generation to not judge us because we're like dinosaurs or so stuck in our ways. So, this is just the tip of the iceberg. And I do want to throw out there, if anyone has any other questions, you can put them in the chat box and we can get to them. But I do want to throw out there that we have access for all of our employees to get LinkedIn Learning licenses. And there is a lot of things on there about this topic on LinkedIn Learning. So if you're a tribal employee and would like a LinkedIn Learning account, reach out to me for that. I also want to bring up that the project management course, Mark was one of our previous Lunch and Learn, and they are getting ready to start that new segment that's being opened up for those, that project management course. that we had talked about a couple of lunch and learns ago. And then you had mentioned, Courtney, the Idaho Launch Platform. I kind of tested that out with a Harvard Business School. They had a Harvard Business School Essential Management one, and it was excellent. And so that Idaho Launch program pays 80% of tuition or whatever the certification cost is, and you would pay 20% of the cost. And so if you're interested in any of those Idaho Launch platforms or to know more about that, reach out to me. It was an excellent course, and it's a great way, like if you're like in the older generation, it's like, I'm too old to go back and learn and go to school or anything. That's kind of what I thought when I took that online course. I thought, I am in over my head, but I got through it and it was really great. So thank you for bringing up Idaho Launch Program. Thank you so much for being here today, Courtney. And we will have this available out there, but if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Emily, or Courtney. So if anyone has any other comments, go ahead and unmute yourself. If not,
I wanted to say a couple other things too, Sid, and emphasize and echo what you mentioned about both the project management program and then the Idaho launch, and maybe give Courtney an opportunity to say a little bit more about the resort management program. She touched on it a little in her initial presentation, but I do think that there is a really neat opportunity for some cross-training in terms of the work that the tribe does, both at the casino and with other events and processes to think about the resort and hospitality management. And I know the College of Business has been thinking about how to make a program like this available to people that wouldn't necessarily relocate to Boise. And so if anybody has questions for Courtney about that, that would be a wonderful use of our time as well. And then I also wanted to mention that because of the hard work of Jessica James, who you heard for before, and Sid and other folks on the Tribal Advisory Board, we do have a reduced tuition, almost free tuition. I forget the exact pieces of it, available to all enrolled members of Shoshone-Bannock to enroll in Boise State full-time in Boise. And we are working on select housing. So if there are people, including yourselves or generations that live in your household that are thinking about coming to school full-time at Boise State, we are working to make sure that we're able to support that and to support their educational journey in that way. But we've also talked about programs that would be like, bring your grandma to school with you or bring your kids to school with you. And, you know, maybe a student comes and does an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's in environmental science, but they bring grandma along who can get that certificate in management, and maybe a cousin or someone else to go through the process together. So I'll stop there and see if other folks have any other questions or comments for Courtney too.
Anybody? Well, I would very much love to work with the tribes in terms of hospitality staff and with the casinos. The 7-class program is completely online, or you can do the bachelor's online, or you can do the bachelor's of applied science online. And if you do the $5,000 Idaho launch, and I think sometimes people get confused because we hear so much about Idaho launch for the graduating seniors. So seniors who graduated high school last year, there's a completely different launch for them. And that's for them to go on to college, which is wonderful. But the Idaho launch division I'm talking about is for any adult in the state of Idaho. And the only thing that you have to do is you have to complete the program, and you have to be willing to stay in the state of Idaho for 2 years. And we find that most of our students are already employed at places where they want to stay. They want to stay and they want to grow in that position. So while we do get some students who have never worked in hospitality before, some of them are already working in resorts or working in casinos. But one thing we find is since the pandemic, and since with labor shrinking, that oftentimes companies do not have resources to be able to provide workforce the types of additional learning opportunities that they would like. So our program ends up costing a student after the $5,000 launch to get the certificate, costs around, I think, $1,100. But we are such a small program currently that we have access to a lot of Idaho State scholarships. So there's a lot of hospitality scholarships that just never get claimed. So a lot of our students are being able to come through the program with zero out-of-pocket cost. And it's very tailored. We work with the students. I would love to, ideally, I would love to visit the tribes and get students up going on the Canvas platform and help them get started with that. But yes, that's our resort and hospitality management program. And I also have, if you'd like to connect with me or get more information, there's a QR code. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, tell you more about our program if you have interest or have somewhere you'd like to send me.
All right. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think it would be fun. I do have a quick question about like that one program you were talking about. I don't know if you said like a 7-week or whatever it was, but like with Mark's online platform, they were able to give us a discount for our workforce. Do you know if you're able to do that at this time for that online program?
I know that I can certainly find out, and I would
Okay.
love to find that out. And it's 7 classes. Each class is 7 weeks. Some students take a couple classes at once, some take 3, some just take 1. But you can usually visit or finish that certificate within a year or a year and a half. But I will find that out, any workforce discounts. Okay, great.
Great. And if anyone is interested in learning more about that, reach out to me. And as soon as I hear back from Courtney, if they can offer any type of additional discount, because I know that with the scholarship or the discounted rate that Emily was talking about, some of the online platforms it doesn't apply to. So if there's one that you're interested in, reach out to Jessica or myself, and we can dig more into it. But the project management one that's getting ready to start, they give us a 50% off cost. So I think it ends up being total is $700, $350 each semester. So if you want more information about that project management one again, reach out to me. But thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I so enjoyed my time with you, and I hope you all have an incredibly wonderful rest of your week.
Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks so much, Courtney. And if anybody else has a suggestion on a topic for a future Lunch and Learn, we have a few more scheduled. In August, we'll flip, and the Shoshone-Bannock will present on tribal sovereignty. Galen Edmo, I believe, is going to be presenting. So Boise State folks can learn about that. And then Jen Schneider will be presenting on artificial intelligence in September, and especially the role of AI in the workforce and in the classroom. So look for more information about those. We also have conflict management on the agenda for the fall, and I believe also a talk on Fort Hall and Shoshone-Bannock tribal history. I forget exactly the topic of it, but I think the November one is more information about the tribes in particular. So if there's something else that would serve your interests and your needs, please let us know, and we'll try and work that into the schedule. All right. A wonderful afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.